Senator, good morning to you. So after Labor's success in the lower house, is it your plan to try and roll back those amendments?
Good morning to you. It's lovely to be with you. We're spending this morning checking in with all of the stakeholder groups that we have been working with over the last 3 years to be able to reach the point where we think what we put to the House as a government got the balance right. Now that that's changed, we need to make sure that we are consulting with them and making sure that the implications of this amendment, because it was something that we acknowledged was so complex that it required a 12-month Australian Law Reform Commission process to make sure that it properly integrated with the existing framework for regulating schools, for instance. We're checking in with them, trying to make sure that we can fully appreciate the implications of that amendment before we have to deal with it in the Senate.
So will you try and roll them back, or are you waiting off on that?
Well, we're going to check in with our stakeholders first.
Okay.
We're going to make an informed decision, and we are really intent on honouring the commitment we made to all of the multicultural groups, to all of the religious groups, and also all of the LGBTI groups in the consultation process that we've undertaken. So we want to do the right thing by the people in the community who are affected by this bill.
What is your major concern, Senator?
Well, one of the things that's been raised with us by, for instance, religious schools is that certain changes that would be made to the Sex Discrimination Act. And of course, Section 38(3) of the Sex Discrimination Act was inserted by Labor some 7 or 9 years ago, and it excludes people on a range of different bases from the protection of the Sex Discrimination Act in narrow circumstances so that schools are able to operate according to their ethos without having the threat of litigation hanging over them. One example is that there are some aspects of religious teaching that might offend people of diverse sexuality. There are some aspects of the management of schools, for instance, let's say a girls' school, that are challenged by the suggestion that a biological male transitioning to be female could be accommodated in that school. Now, right. I'm not making a judgment either way on those things, but they're really, really complex.
Right,
and we need to make sure that even as we look after transitioning kids, noting that they're small in number, but they are still important people, we don't want to make it so that the vast majority of, say, school sport isn't safe for girls.
Right,
we don't want to make it so that school camps aren't able to be run safely. We want to make sure that boarding schools can operate safely. And so that's the kind of complexity that needs to be worked through when amendments of this kind are considered.
Yeah, I mean, Karen Andrews, she was on the program earlier and she mentioned that she's worried about the impacts on single-sex schools and how that's managed. So is that a short way of saying that?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Labor wants to revisit some other amendments, and that includes an anti-vilification provision. What are your thoughts on that? Is there any chance of success there?
An anti-vilification provision sounds fine at first glance, but what we're really talking about here is putting a sword into the bill. Now, we've always said the Religious Discrimination Act should be a shield to stop religious people from facing discrimination, but shouldn't give them weapons to wield against others. An anti-vilification provision is a bit like Section 18C, as it then was, of the Racial Discrimination Act, providing opportunities for people to almost enforce a law of blasphemy against others. And I don't think that would be a good thing for having an open and tolerant, free society where people can discuss things they don't like without the fear of being muzzled.
There is there are a few people who believe that it may well come down to Andrew Bragg, who may cross the floor over this. Have you had a word with him at all this morning to see where he's at?
Andrew Bragg is a valued member of the team, and like all of us, I think he finds these issues really challenging. That's why we continue to be supportive colleagues. We continue to work through with him anything about which he's concerned, and at the same time try and make sure that he is able to see all the different sides of the story so that we can do what's in the best interests of the vast majority of Australians, as well as the small minority that he's anxious about.
Any hard feelings if he crosses the floor?
Well, this is politics. It's not about us. It's about the Australian people. And so none of this is about personalities. We've got to work as a team, and we do. But we've all, I think, from our different perspectives and the different shoes we walk in, got our eyes fixed on the people whom we serve. That's true of Andrew, and it's true of me.
Are you going to have to extend the hours of the Senate to ensure a possibly longer session?
Look, I don't know the answer, but we often do to make sure we get the things done that Australians need. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we did, and if we did, we'd make it work.
Okay, so is it going to be an all-nighter? It's a short way of asking, I guess.
Potentially, but that's all right. We're used to that around here.
Okay, all right, Senator, appreciate it. Thank you. That's Amanda Stoker there, coming to us live from Canberra.